Thank you for watching Mitsub TV. So we have the BKFC 60 out of Milton Keynes, the UK, taking place on the 6th of April. This is fast approaching, so maybe we should take a look at the card. We have 3 title fights on this card. I'll have a look at the title fights, and then maybe we'll get around and have a look at some of the fights further down the card there. So what do we got going on? So heading the bill, we have for the BKFC European inaugural lightweight title. This was the 155. This is a great fight ahead of us here. James Lilly against Franco Tanaga. James Lilly, we know, massively popular fighter, both sides of the Atlantic, both UK and stateside. Really does command a lot of respect from all fighters and fight fans alike. You know, he really is simply that good. A very, very impressive fighter to watch. Last out against Louis Palomino in June 2023, where he didn't quite get the job done, and Louis Palomino walked away with the win on that occasion. So he'll have been out 10 months by the time we get around to this event. Not a huge amount of time out, but in comparison to his opponent, it possibly is. James is up against Franco Tanaga. Again, massively respected, popular fighter, mostly throughout Europe, Franco Tanaga. Argentinian based out of Spain. Probably the most active fighter on this card. He's a real crowd pleaser. He really does take you in there. Franco, like I say, he's very, very active. Constantly seems in preparation for something, and he covers everything, whether it's bare knuckle MMA, no rules, bare knuckle fighting. He's constantly active. He really does live that life. Franco was active as recently as last month in a no rules competition in Spain, where he did walk away with a comfortable win in that occasion within a couple of minutes there. I think James, on this occasion, James's overall bare knuckle fighting game is superior. His fighting game is superior to almost all, which puts him as a favourite in this for me. However, Franco does have the benefit of activity as well as a tuned round game, and so the surprise element from Franco is always on the cards there. Franco, very, very tough opponent. Anyone who's ever been in with Franco knows they've been to war. Nobody goes in there with Franco Tanaga and leaves feeling anything less than they've been in an absolute battle. You know, it's easy to forget that James can and stand and will bang in outright war as well. You know, we're so used to seeing him in the ultimate composure, but he can stand and bang with the best of them as well. So if Franco manages to send the fight in that direction, you know, then bring out the dog in James Lilly, this could really make for an excellent conclusion. So a brilliant headline bout ahead of us, should bring the roof off. And so we're going to see Danny Christie put his BKFC light heavyweight title on the line against David Round. This is fought at 185. Interesting matchup. David Round sitting there patiently waiting for his shot against Christie, and then all of a sudden it comes around a little quicker than most of us would have anticipated. Why? Well, Christie's lost to Jared Warren in November there changes Christie's probable direction of progression, had he taken the win over Warren, and so the loss has landed this domestic title chance at the feet of David Round, who, in my opinion, absolutely deserves it. Round, we saw last out against Terry Brazier in March 2023, a year since we were down at Crystal Palace. Where has that time gone? Is that a long time? I was going to be 13 months out for Round since he was last in there. It's not a massive amount of time. It's not ideal, is it? But it's not a massive amount of time. So, I mean, both of these lads have taken one loss under the BKFC promotion. Round's only loss was to Nathan Owens in Newcastle in November 2022. That was a really memorable fight for me. It was a brilliant fight, and both fighters in there were looking to having a really great time, which just makes it more enjoyable as a spectator. So yeah, that was a really great fight, but Nathan Owens walked away with his hand raised on that occasion. But that's Round's only loss under the BKFC promotion. Christie, you know, Christie's got some answers, some questions to answer this time. What happened against Jared Warren? Was it a bad day at the office? Has his punch resistance abandoned him? Can Christie fight southpaw? These are all questions that we're asking of Christie on this occasion. We've all become so used to seeing how durable, how tough Christie is. leaves a bit more of an impact on us than, when we see him go down like he was against Jared Warren there. So, it leaves those questions there. I mean, to be fair, Warren's timing was on point, but it still leaves those questions there after you're used to seeing how durable Christie typically is. But let's say, if it was the case, that his punch resistance had all of a sudden packed its bags and left Christie's arsenal, then we'd expect to see Christie in trouble here. The way Christie fights, he relies on his durability a lot. It is a massive part of his arsenal. If that has abandoned him, then he's going to find it very, very difficult. We'll see. I mean, I'm starting to see a trait in Christie as well. That. I know it's still early on with the development of these fighters, but I'm starting to see a trait with Christie that he's a bit of a slow starter. He has a little bit of the Balboa syndrome where he needs to be punched in the face a few times to activate the best fighter in him. The deeper we go into the fights, the better I expect to see Christie, the more improvement I expect to see around Christie. And that's certainly a trait that I'm starting to pick up on him. I don't know if anybody else is noticing that or expecting that, but certainly that's an impression that I'm getting from his previous performances. So let's say, all is well with Christie, and he just has he's just had a bad day at the office against Jared Warren there. We know Round, he's very, very experienced. We'd expect to see him, seeing what we've seen, looking to capitalise on some of the things, we've learned about Christie. For me, the jury is out on whether Christie can fight southpaws. Going off that effort in November there, you would have to say that he struggles with a southpaw. He was that out of shape. Going off that effort, you would say that he is going to really struggle if Round comes out and if Round can sustain southpaw. It's one thing knowing how to fight a southpaw, knowing in your mind, knowing in your head, knowing technically what is required to fight southpaw, but telling your body, relaying that to your body from your brain, it's often a very, very different thing entirely. Prediction-wise, I'm going to say that if Round can capitalise on these things, meaning sustain southpaw throughout and come out fast, then I'd say Round can take this early on, within the first half of the fight. But like I said earlier, the deeper we go into this fight, the longer this fight goes on, the more activated I see Christie becoming, and the scales start to tip in his favour. So first half of the fight, Round takes it. Second half of the fight, Christie takes it. Not long till we find out exactly how this one does go down. And so we have the inaugural BKFC British Featherweight title. This is Gary Fox, or was Gary Fox and John Hick originally. No, this was the original card. Unfortunately, John Hick has had to pull out. Upon the announcement of that matchup, I took straight to social media. I was very excited for this matchup, to give it a shout as probable fight of the night. Thought it was a really good matchup. Really looking forward to it. So it was a little bit of a downer when I found out John had to pull out. However, reinflated on finding out who will be taking John's place in this. And if you go back, if you recall my review of the BKFC 55 last year when Gary Fox took the win over Robbie Brown, there's no shame in a loss to Gary Fox. Like I said beforehand, the big ask. He's a huge problem for anybody at 145. So, both lads put a great performance on, and Gary Fox walked away with the win. Speaking of big problems at 145, though, I do wonder now if we're going to get a fight that I've been wanting to see for a while. I was hoping it was going to be made on this, the last card that was actually cancelled. It wasn't made on this card. I'm hoping it can be Gary Fox's next outing, and I would like to see Gary Fox against Ellis Shepard. I think both of these guys are a nightmare for each other, and it's something, I think that just looks like an awesome fight, and so I would really, really like to see that. I hope we can get that together early next year, and hopefully for Gary's and Ellis's next outing. Well, it looks like it's early 2024, and I am getting the fight that I called for last year. So, absolutely no complaining from me at all. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have Gary Fox taking on Ellis Shepard for the inaugural British featherweight title. Now, this is going to be an excellent matchup. You have to take your hats off to these guys, firstly, for taking this and getting this on at less than 4 weeks out. Gary Fox, who we know would have been preparing for John Hick, and Ellis Shepard, who I know jumped straight at the opportunity for this. So he must be feeling very, very good at the moment as well to have jumped on that. Now, like I said last year, these two are absolute nightmare for each other, in my opinion. It'll be fast, furious. Ellis Shepard, really fast mover. He really covers ground really well. He's as sharp as they come. I also hear that there's been massive improvements in Ellis over the last year. And if that is the case, this is going to be a real headache for Gary Fox there. Gary Fox, massively durable fighter. Any flaws that there's ever been in Gary Fox's game, he more than makes up for in pure toughness, pure dog. He's a very, very durable fighter. I don't think I've seen him in trouble yet on the BKFC promotion. He's massively impactful on the 145 division. He's got heads turning both sides of the pond. When he's out there, he wants to dictate matters. He wants to force himself onto his opponent, press them into error. And he's very, very good at doing that because he can absorb any of his own errors in doing so. So, like I say, it's not often you see Fox take a backward step. But in this one, you might see him fight a little bit differently. I'm anticipating we see a little bit of a different Fox on this occasion. And so for me, like I say, I reckon the British lads have this 145 division completely strapped down. And yeah, I anticipate that'll be the next world title to come this side of the pond. So all in all, it's turned out good. It's unfortunate that John had to pull out. To claim a prediction on this one would be a massive, massive mistake for me. It would be a guess. So much comes into this equation. Fox is being very active. His momentum must count in this. Shepard coming into this fresh, improved, really hungry for it. I know he's very, very confident on this one. Ellis has the upper hand. Of recent data from Fox's activity, Fox is playing this a little bit blind. He doesn't have as much footage because Ellis hasn't been active. So there's so many, there's so much comes into play in this one. For me to have a prediction on this would just be a guess. I'm absolutely intriguing dynamics to this matchup. I'm really excited for this one. Can't wait. And just a quick look through the rest of the card there, see what we have. Straight off, you can see we've got Ben Bonner there on the undercard. A little bit of a shame to see Ben on the undercard there. I do realise he took a bad loss against Robert Barry at Newcastle last July there, but the heart that he showed in that, you kind of feel that he's earned his place on the main card in there, don't you? He took a win over Jamie Oldfield at Crystal Palace almost a year to the day. Then yes, but he's sitting on the undercard. You've got to appreciate as well on the undercard, there is some balance there. They do have to put fighters on the undercard that are going to bring new eyes to the promotion. That is the free view. That is where those that aren't currently subscribed are going to get a taster of what is going on within the BKFC. So there has to be a balance there. Moscot's yellow. Great to see him back. He looked very, very confident, didn't he? When he was in there against Hospodarski on the BKFC 55. Took a win, looked very comfortable. Impressive to see where he goes in the promotion there. Jack Draper, he's out being quite inactive. Jack, it's good to see him out. Hoping everything goes according to plan for him. We have Pond. He was on the same prospect series as Ray Putterill, wasn't he? Got a great knockout over the Welsh lad. Binden had a great Knuckle debut, didn't he? And then he went off the boil a little bit. So interesting to see what happens between these two there. Connor Cook, Dawid Oscar, you just feel it's a little bit. Now we've seen Dawid Oscar face a boxer. We saw him out against Carl Thompson last out, didn't we? Which was a bit uncomfortable at times to watch because he was just exposed. There was really little to David Oscar's game. He had been ploughing himself through BKFC, and he was looking very, very impressive until he came up against Carl Thompson, who can box. And Connor Cook, we do know he can box. He's very, very good. And for me, I just think, this is an easy call, really. Connor Cook's all day, isn't it? Jono Chip Chase against Robbie Brown. Robbie Brown will really be wanting to make his mark on this one. This was talked about all last year. It's going to be Robbie's first outing at his fight weight. Believe it or not, it feels like he's been around for ages, isn't it, already? And it's, he's only a couple of fights in. So really hoping that things go to plan for Robbie in there. Really up against it with Jono Chip Chase. I was very impressed with Chip Chase on his last outing against Lawson, and that was in the Prospect Series back in October. It was a very, very confident, impressive way he dismantled Lawson on that. That was very impressive. Wasserman against Hodgson. Well, we know what Charles Wasserman has after his meeting with Cedric Savarak, who was just an animal, wasn't he? He was just absolutely relentless. That was at Crystal Palace back in March 2023, and that was a real brutal event, wasn't it? And we just saw the heart, that Wasserman has. He really does, even though he seemed to have control of that fight, the heart that he showed, just because Cedric Savarak would not go anywhere. He was relentless. He was bettering his opponent, and he just wouldn't go anywhere. And, often that can take a lot of heart just not to be demoralized, that you're beating a brick wall. So that was a really good win. Very, very brutal. We know what he's capable of now. We know how tough he is. Hodgson last out. I don't think we saw the best Mason Shaw on the BKFC 55. I don't think we saw a good Mason Shaw there, so it's a little bit difficult for us to see where Hodgson is, but this is a good matchup. He did look very strong in there. He did look very confident and commanding in there, so this is going to be a great matchup as well. Very intriguing to see how this one plays out.